So I'm going to call this Committee of the Whole meeting to order. First one of 2014. Welcome everybody. So I have a motion to adopt the minutes of December 3rd, 2013.
Move.
Seconded by Councillor Leithwood. Any discussion? All those in favor? Motion is carried. All right, our first 15 minutes is dedicated to the public for budget engagement. Did you have any questions of a budgetary nature? You're our public tonight, so.
It's a very large crowd here. No.
No.
Thank you.
So, we have one delegation is expected, and from Randy Morse of the Kaslo Institute. So we will go on to business until he arrives, and if that's fine with everybody, and if he doesn't come by the end of the meeting, then we'll just have a discussion on the correspondence he submitted. So the first item of business is City Hall Parks Canada Cost Share Program.
So, just to give some context here, I was given some of the discussions I've been having informally, I was made aware of some interest the library had around the fire hall, and the council plan to demolish it once the volunteer fire department moved to their new location. So on the 2nd of January I called up Heritage BC to ask their views, because I knew it was a 1970s construction and it might have some impact on grant programs for heritage, which they confirmed it likely would. But beside that, to some alarm, they indicated that on December 16th, the federal government posted on their website that the Parks Canada round for this year was open, with a January 27th submission deadline. This has happened in a couple of other grant areas since I've discovered in discussions with the MP's office, apparently there's a very low fanfare across a number of areas. So it lends a little more urgency to the topic of what is the plan for City Hall in 2014. Staff only have a couple of weeks to put something together now. Carol Hughes has done some good work in the last few years, and that would certainly dust off and improve and enhance. However, the scale of the program you need to have a look at and assess where you'd like to go. You could do up to a $200,000 project overall. It's a 50% elevation cost program. In my report I'm suggesting perhaps an exterior project if the demolition of the fire hall moves forward. It would fit with some of the discussions we've been having in budget meetings already. However, there's a lot for you to discuss there, because there's a number of projects that could be taken forward with that funding, a number of match possibilities. I've already been in touch with the Columbia Basin Trust, and they've indicated that if it's of a heritage nature, they would welcome seeing that proposal sunk.
Good evening, folks.
So, I've got two recommendations there, but it's really that those are just suggestions. If you want to go in a different direction for a heritage project for City Hall, it's really open.
Councillor Holland?
So, if it's a matching grant and we're up to $200,000 potentially, that means we would do 100. And so what have we got in reserves at the City Hall now?
Last year we had about 80,000 in reserve, but we budgeted an additional 25 for projects that didn't go forward. So in theory we do have the hard cash where necessary. However, I would suggest a combination of gas tax funding and applications to the Columbia Basin Trust as well to reduce that contribution, particularly since the main floor work at City Hall would be the least eligible for heritage funding in the future, and if we deplete the reserve completely, that work will likely never be done. Unless we have a serious tax hike or something, just to pay for that. The irony is, and I'm still waiting to have a good discussion with someone in the federal government about this, is that the main character defining element of City Hall is the fact that it was an operational municipal office. That's in the statement of significance. Therefore, I think there's an argument, although I don't know if it would win much ground with Parks Canada, that you could argue the main floor should be renovated on that basis. However, I suspect, as does Heritage BC, that an exterior project would be more successful, or the courtroom on the next floor up.
So to follow up on that, then I agree with the direction you're going here. I think it's the right direction. We had budgeted some money for removal of the fire hall.
We're looking at that, yes.
So potentially that could be, like you pointed out, that could be part of this. Okay. Okay. That's, I think in principle it's all sounds really good to me. Thank you.
Mayor Lake?
Yeah, no, I appreciate the work that went into this. This is a good, solid direction. I think it's clear that trying to, do it in bits and pieces, well, it remains an eyesore is a real problem for me personally.
Yeah.
So I think the emphasis should be on restoring the exterior at this point in time. And the gas tax money, that we don't have to take all the gas tax money. We could actually loan money with a council resolution and, loan the total amount, but only pay it back. So there's a number of creative ways that we can come up with the money here, in my opinion. We don't have to deplete all our resources with gas tax money. We can spread that gas tax money around because we know it's secure for 10 years. So I think it's great.
Councillor Luther?
Well, we have 8,000 anyway, so we don't have to take 20,000. But I just was, so does the library understand that we do need to remove the fire hall from the City Hall?
This seems to be a little bit of a bone of contention in that they're coming as a delegation in the near future to talk to you about their plans for the future, including that. There seems to be a desire on the part of some of their board to look at the fire hall as something for expansion. However, if we're looking for a creative new space to expand, I can't, just as a personal view, I can't think of anything better than the courtroom space to get renovated with heritage money in the future as an alternative. To focus on the actual heritage footprint of the building. If that is something they want to formally request, which they haven't done so yet, although they want to talk about it, it would change the nature potentially of what we apply for here. Although it's all up in the air until you know one way or another with it around.
I just thought that it was always understood that that fire hall had to be to be removed for it to continue with its status. And the other thing is that building's not sprinkled either, so anybody that does occupy it would have to be sprinkled, which is a significant cost. But
I'll just ask if Councillor Lang has any comment.
Well, in terms of the library moving into the old fire hall, I think that proposal is fraught with problems, not the least of which the cost of renovating it, like including sprinkling, but it needs a lot more than that. So I wouldn't support that. I just had a question as far as dealing with the exterior of the building. Is there any plans to make the building handicap accessible?
City Hall?
Yeah.
The revised version of the Thomas Lowe plans actually cut a degree of that point. There are some elements to make it more disabled access friendly, but the concepts like the elevator that had been there in the first iteration was dropped on the grounds of cost, and given its nature as a National Historic Site, we won that argument.
Right.
It's not the effect on the cost of renovating the building was dramatic. and doing something like that.
So I'm missing something here. Is there plans to make it handicap accessible, like just with ramps, not with an elevator?
Yes.
Moving around.
Yeah, okay. Sorry, I missed that.
Okay, Mary Lee?
Well, if I remember the long discussions we had on this, there had to be a 1 meter separation between the building and the fire hall, so you gotta tear that end all apart. So, I mean, it's fraught with so many things. The other issue that has emerged over time is that, you know, the school has an underutilized library. And there has been some discussion that maybe the library should be amalgamated. And there's union issues there and a number of other kinds of things. But, I mean, that's a beautiful library in the school that isn't being used. Anyway.
They've done it in other communities.
Yeah. So there's a number of options here, and so it'll be interesting to hear their discussion and then go from there.
So is someone prepared to move the recommendation?
I move the 2 recommendations.
I'll second.
Any discussion? So the first one for the benefit of the people in the gallery is that the committee recommend to council that a proposal for restoration and renovations of the exterior of City Hall be prepared to a total project value of up to $200,000, potentially comprised of Parks Canada funding, Heritage BC funding, gas tax funding, Columbia Basin Trust funds, and internal revenue. And the second one is that the committee recommend to council that third parties interested in additional functional space inside or on City Hall property be invited to work with the village on finding additional funding solutions for both the main floor and courtroom that conform to known character defining elements in the statement of significance. So any discussion on either of those? All those in favor? Motion is carried. Thank you. All right, so we'll jump back to our delegation. We went along without you since we had no questions at the beginning, so we just rolled right into business. So if you want to come to the table, Randy?
Sure.
Speak to your correspondence.
Happy New Year. Those of you who I haven't already wished Happy New Year. Thank you for having me. This is a request for a letter of support for an initiative that the Kaslo Institute is spearheading to seek the 2014 BC Rural Network Summit for Kaslo. And we're proposing that it be held here June 6th, 7th, and 8th, which is Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. I sent a note, Neil, I don't know if you received this in time to, okay, great. So, oh, terrific. Yeah. I keep forgetting you gotta have the same cool little setup myself. I feel so cyber unhip, even though it says technology, never mind creativity on the letter. So, do you have any questions? I mean, let's just get right to the questions, I guess, if you have the letter.
He was great.
I'll just make one comment. I got a pretty good comprehension, understanding of what this is about because of what I do for a living kind of thing. And Randy, quite honestly, my main concern here is that it gets pulled off well, because it would actually be worse for us if we flood the dub. So I have a huge amount of confidence in you, and the town has a bit of experience in hosting these kind of things. But that's my main concern, is that we do a top-notch job on it, and we don't let it get
well, I can only say that that's exactly my concern as well.
Okay.
I mean, I think you can appreciate that if we go forward with this, well, we are going forward with this, with the proposal, if we're successful, and now we're faced with the task of hosting this. This is going to be a very big deal for the Kaslo Institute, which is a young institution. It would not serve the future of the Kaslo Institute well, never mind the village of Kaslo, where everyone associated with the Kaslo Institute, or most of us anyway, reside, to flood this or below it. But just to take your concern a little further, Jim, I've, over the last 2 days, had several conversations with past organizers, both in Grand Forks and the Soyuz. and a long conversation with Susan Mulkey, who, as you know, hosted or organized, was the organizer for an absolutely same-sized event here last year, almost exactly the same size that we would anticipate the summit being here as well. And based on those conversations, and what I know about this place and the various organizations and businesses and individuals here, I'm not sanguine about this, but I'm quite confident we can do a good job. I can tell you that just between us, the event in Grand Forks. Okay, well then let's just say that I'm quite confident that we can do at least as good a job as our good friends and regional neighbors in Grand Forks in 2012.
That's better said.
There you go. And the feedback from participants at that event was tremendous, save for the fact that most participants really wanted to have a bit more downtime, to get to know the community that they were visiting a bit better, to have more time to liaise with one another. And we're taking that under advisement and hope to structure an event that provides that for participants. But I do think that we can do a good job of this.
Well, it's just that it's a 5-page submission, and I know a go or no go. I like it. January 28th, the project ends. Phase 1. If they approve, we then have to develop the organization and get, and it's a very time-consuming kind of thing, but they do fund that. So this thing's got money if you get accepted. I don't know how much money, but there are, and there's quite a list of other participants from the Grand Forks one, the credit union, Fortis. So I'm quite optimistic. However, the investment in time would then prepare us for 2016. So if we're not successful in 2014, at least we'll have a template in place. And they have a ranking system. It's 100 points. And part of the condition is that we get to see, of the points assigned, how many points we got for each item, so we know where the strengths and weaknesses of the proposal are. So it goes till the 28th, and then it goes till the 14th of February, I guess.
That's right. Yeah, we'll know by the 14th of February.
So it is just very much a fishing expedition until February 14th.
But to be very clear, all I'm looking for through you from council today is a letter of support, just saying, okay, Kaslo Institute, good luck. If you can pull this off, this would be fantastic. I would encourage you not to put your concern, for example, into the letter, not at this stage, because it's a prerequisite, actually, that the local government in the jurisdiction that the applicant is based in write a letter of support. If we are successful around Valentine's Day, I hope appropriately, then we sit down and get absolutely serious about this. And that's there'll be a steering committee. This is going to be a very broadly based initiative. It just makes sense to approach it that way. We do have expertise in the village that we can draw upon without being indelicate. Neil is actually on, I don't know, he's certainly active within this association, and that's a resource, obviously. Not in the decision-making process itself, but if we're successful. But at this stage, I'm just looking for a letter from council saying we would be delighted if we're glad that the Institute is pursuing this. We would be delighted if we were able to secure it, and we look forward to the results of the adjudication process in mid-February.
I was going to make a motion that we let it go to that. Did you?
No.
I just wanted to make a comment first. Thanks very much for taking the time. I called Randy over the weekend because this was something that I didn't know was on the agenda on Thursday afternoon, and as I was viewing the agenda over the weekend, I made a call to Randy because I knew I couldn't reach Neil to do so. So he did do quite a bit of work over the weekend, and I appreciate you going to the time to do this and for talking to me last night and doing all the research. It certainly helps for us to understand, where you're coming from, and to have you here is way better than just are we going to support this?
Sure.
So we know what kind of efforts you're putting forward, which I think is going to be great. So I would recommend that we provide this letter of support.
I'll move that.
Second.
Does anyone have any suggestions? Because I don't know whether Neil's comfortable with putting in flowery, whether
The Scottish, it'll never happen if he's so inclined.
So anything in particular, because we don't want to put Neil in an awkward position wording a letter with stuff because he's on the board or associated with the organization. So we should try to provide sufficient.
I wouldn't mind I don't believe Neil is in an awkward position on this at all.
As long as the mayor says it.
Okay.
Yeah,
All right. I just don't want to.
No, within the realm of the board, a director trying to do something like this in their community would be expected to sit up and be a strong advocate for it and speak and defend it and speak. So good luck to Neil on that. Good luck to Randy on your work, and like I'm in, I'll sort of support it with some personal effort too.
I'm glad to hear that, because as you noticed, if you've read the letter, I'll be calling you in another role on Monday.
Okay, so that was moved by Councillor Leakwood and seconded by Mayor Lake. Okay, any further discussion? All those in favor? Motion's carried.
Thanks very much. Appreciate your time, appreciate the support, thank you. And I'll keep you apprised.
And I think I have one last comment, and that would be approach Director Shadrack. And I believe there's other area directors that would also give letters of support. I know Director Faust, I think, would be very supportive.
Right, and we've actually had a conversation with Director, the lady who is based in Grand Forks, Christina Lake, who's been very helpful, actually.
McGregor.
Exactly, Director McGregor. They're all on the list.
Good.
As well as MPs Adam Manenko and Wilkes and MLA Mungal. Yeah.
The only issue, and I really not have an issue, I don't know what other Creston may want this. So, do they write letters of support for both groups, or do they pick one, or so? I mean,
That would be
I've been I've been a little nervous about how far we reach out for letters of support, because we really don't know what other communities are going after.
Well, the approach that I'm taking is to not worry about that, and to approach these folks in a very open way. And if one of these, for example, other regional directors knows that another and perhaps larger community in their district is a potential opponent, right? I'm assuming that she will say so, and that's good to know.
Yeah.
Right. So thanks again for your time. I appreciate it.
Have a good evening.
Thank you, you too.
So the next item is the rent review. So City Hall and Campbell building space use and improvements.
Yes, this is really for informational, and although I did provide some tentative recommendations on a sort of take or leave them basis, but really for budget I was asked to do this, but I think as a discussion item for general committee as a whole, it's quite a useful little review for you. We have a reasonably full building at this point in time. However, the rental agreement and the status of various tenants are in quite a bit of flux right now. You can see there's quite a range of different dollars per square foot per month based on what they pay. And most of them are considerably below what one would call market level. I believe Deputy Clerk Hughes gave a previous council report, I think as long ago as 2009, with a recommendation of, I think there were some guidelines set around $1.50 dollars per square foot per month on some of these routes at that time. So as you can see, there's a little bit of a disparity there. However, the building is being well used at this time, so there's definitely a social benefit derived. Planned improvements for 2014, you may notice on the floor we've got one of them slightly underway already. One's a power outlet, and the other one will be for Cat 5 and Cat 6 internet cable for when the broadband is complete in the building. Another aspect, to try and get I'm hoping to try and get a ceiling-mounted projector system to replace the one we're going to lose to DHC in Firefall. For presentations and so on, but again, that's for budget. So we've got exterior signage in the courtyard and relocation of the forest fire information sign. New ceiling projector system, some minor electrical upgrades, installation of video conference equipment in the subsidiary meeting room next door. Once the Columbia Basin Broadband Corporation project moves forward this year. We do have some electrical and heating maintenance challenges in the building. Two of our tenants are having trouble with space heaters, blowing fuses and so on, and Public Works are unable to get the necessary companies to come in and do a review of what's going wrong with the geothermal system. There's only a few in the area, and they're not exactly in a rush to come and assist us with that. So there's some difficult issues there to be dealt with in terms of do we bite the bullet and do some wiring upgrades, or do we try and get the geothermal heating system repaired or upgraded to what it should be. In 2014, all tenants, with the exception of Service BC, will likely have the option of purchasing high-speed internet service provider services from Castle Internet Society, all being well. Service BC can't, as they're locked in with deals with TELUS through a larger agreement across the product. And also we're looking at a minor repair to failing concrete work around the front entrance, the stairs and rails. So it's a modest list, but I think even in its modest listing there, it will be doing well to get through all of it. So the key pieces I mentioned there was the number of expiring agreements is substantial. However, I'm a little bit reluctant to rush into new below market long-term lease arrangements, given the number of upgrades we're looking into this building, because they will be available to tenants on either on a fee basis or an inclusive basis based on a new agreement or something like that. It might not, renewing some of these agreements might not be a good business decision. Current rates of rent are disparate and well below market norms. A key question, at least from my perspective, and for you to discuss, might be what is the vision for the Campbell Memorial Centre in the long term? Is it an incubator or attractant for downtown economic activity, or is it as a provider of low-cost free space for the community at large? Now, there's a bit of overlap there, but I think you can probably see a little bit of a difference in terms of how you might approach relationships with tenants and improvements. The tenants do need time to be apprised of the 2014 plan changes to the building, see them implemented, basically see that it's done, and that there's evidence that we're moving forward. And they do need an opportunity to negotiate lease agreements that acknowledge they are in substantially improved facilities. any loss of tenants. I mean, we don't want to, we don't want to lose tenants particularly, but it would be an opportunity to market some of the rooms and test the market if we have some of the improvements in place. Use of video conference facilities could be a negotiated part of new lease agreements. Certainly for some of our business tenants, it might be considered valuable. I'm certainly recommending we look at an implementation of some user fees for these facilities and to at least some amount of so the three recommendations I give you there, the expired leases will only be renewed for this calendar year on the rates currently negotiated, or that the village continues on a month-to-month basis with these tenants for 2014. The one high-speed ISP service is being available for purchase. The minimum negotiable monthly rental cost be set at $1.10 per square foot for any renewed or new lease agreement, or some other figure that represents an increase from what was there before. Lastly, the new user fees be implemented for use of the meeting room and council chambers upon completion of the improvements in 2014. The other aspect I forgot to mention, just to include City Hall. The library was mentioned earlier. The basement area that the library occupies is nearly 2,000 square feet. They paid just over $1,000 per annum in an agreement. I think it was re-signed just recently, expires in 2017. They get a very good deal, to put it mildly, in probably one of our best municipally held spaces. It does offer a great deal of value in that context.
Mayor Lay, I saw you.
Well, just the issue of, because we went through this exercise once in terms of what other landlords are renting space for. So we have those hard numbers now, currently what they're renting space for. That's how the market, we know what the market is, or we don't know what the market is.
The market is when I say bull market, I'm taking a kind of regional figure that would be in the $5-6 area. So it's well below it in that sense. However, in Kaslo, it's quite variable. There are people paying more than that. There are certain non-profit organisations that are paying nothing to occupy.
Yeah, okay, no, I was just
space.
So you said market, I was thinking casual market
Yeah.
is the issue in terms of future planning in my mind. But and I thought we went out and did it, and it was like pulling teeth to get the
Yes.
call, get the rent. I mean, people did not want to say what they were renting for. But on the other hand, we didn't want to be perceived as under market, favoring a business with other renters. So I think that's something that bears some work in terms of trying to communicate with other landlords as to what they're renting for, so that we don't find ourselves in a situation where our renters aren't paying a similar amount.
I think one of our kind of mandates when we took over the building and formed the committee was that we didn't want to be seen as, competing with other spaces. We wanted to just make enough money to basically manage the building. Because there was quite a bit of opposition to purchasing the building. So I think one of the reasons why we've kept the rents towards where they're at is so that we just basically manage the building. I guess the other question I had too is, as a landlord, I mean, that's a significant increase compared to what someone can pay. Or is there not a standard of what we're allowed to increase rents to? Like, can you go 100%? Or I thought it was only so many percent you could do.
Well, if you wanted to go in a legal direction, potentially I'd need to look into that. But if you're renegotiating, it would be interesting to see what the tolerance level would be. The fact is that some of these agreements have actually expired. A number of them.
Councillor Holland and then Councillor Lynch.
Yeah, that's about Councillor Lane to speak on my recommendation.
Okay.
Well, Yeah, when we first established these rent levels, it was basically, what we attempted to do was establish the basement at 35 cents, the main, upstairs at 70, and then the main floor at $1.50. Obviously, we missed the boat there in a couple of areas, but what concerns me most about this whole scenario is the number of renters that have no agreement in place at all. And I think we need to tidy up that end of things. I have a little bit of an inkling what other people are paying around Front Street for rents, and I don't think we're undercutting the market that dramatically. A lot depends on the condition of the building and, you know, and what features it offers and so on and so forth, but I would, that $1.50 figure for the main floor, I think, is a good one. I don't know how Instruments have changed that in there for 80 cents. I guess it was based on something like, well, what can you afford to pay? And that's where they settled on. 100% increase in their rent might be a little bit over the top. But mainly I'd like to see some letter of commitment, especially from the community forestry and, well, all of them really, to where, how long they intend to be here, and then from that, once we have that information, then we can maybe start structuring some rent increases that are fair and equitable.
Well, I would like to see, what does it cost per square foot to run a building? And there's annual maintenance and a number of other things, so, and you know, what is the bottom line per square foot? Is a number that I think would help us, depending on where we want to go with this, because that's what happens with the other renters. You can rent some awful cheap space here, but it needs an awful lot of work for the tenant to move into it. You know, so could,
you know, when we had the RCP in here, we were making money hand over fist, you know. And once they moved out, of course, our revenues plummeted dramatically. So we've been kind of on the seesaw when you take your total annual budget and compare it to your revenues. And that's exclusive of the mortgage. So, but I agree with Mary Lee that we should try to bring the revenues in line with the expenses so that it's at least a break-even proposition. But again, until we know how long these people plan on staying here, it's tough to make any long-term business decisions.
So I'd like to make a motion that the village continues on a month-to-month basis with these tenants for 2014 and inform the tenants that in January 2015 the village will be entering into a longer-term rental agreements with that are more in line with the market, or some such, or in line with operating costs or market, whichever you want to use, or both operating and market. And that's the end of the resolution. And so if there's a second, I'll say a little bit more to it.
I'll second.
So I think what we can do is, if we have a full year, several things are going to happen. We're going to have a lot of our improvements will be done up and working. Tenants will have an opportunity to experience that. I like the idea of possibly including the internet and the video conferencer and make that part of the rent package. I mean, it's one way for us to get our rent fees up to the market level so we're not undercutting other commercial properties in the downtown core by adding benefits. I don't perceive that as be as big a conflict with the other guys. And once they see those benefits through the year, we can give them plenty of warning starting early on around what's down the line, and then they can start making plans as they want to see it. I think this property is going to be pretty desirable when we get the internet fully up and running out of the conference center here. So I wouldn't mind giving them a good, nice amount of time, fair warning. But the intent is starting in January 2015, this place has become more operated on a business model with realistic rates, whether they're up or down.
That's really good.
And we would continue to have the Village Historical Society now pay.
That's my assumption that was continuing,
Right.
unless you want to change that.
No. Well,
Okay. Any further discussion on that motion? Does anyone want it read back, or are you So, all those in favor? Motion is carried.
One additional piece of information on that I should note is that a number of our tenants, not all of them by any means, have received notices of assessment this year. So there may, some of them who qualify may come forward to council over the course of this year looking for an exemption. Yeah, it is the bylaw for 2015.
Do we vote?
Yes.
The only other suggestion I make is around the meeting room and those improvements. I think I'd like to ask that before we allow that room to be used by anyone, that this committee or council determine what we want for the period of 2014 until it's going to be something different happen in January 2015, whether it's in or out of the room or whatever. But in the interim, once it's operational, that before we let anyone use it, that it comes back to council and we determine a rate or a user situation for that.
I am a little bit concerned about doing investments and of the technological variety in this build, this room and the one next door, without tightening up security around the two rooms and the ability to sign in and sign out. It's maybe a little lax at the moment, and once there's these items of value in there, we are going to have to be.
Well, it's one of the views about hanging.
Well, that's one benefit of that, yes.
So, no one wanted the other two motions, just leave them for the time being? Sounds like the last one would be appropriate, because that's basically what you had asked.
Well, it doesn't really need to be a motion at this point unless the CEO would like that. I would just like that, I'm just sort of stating that my opinion is that we not let it sort of slide into this space where somebody's using it if it gets up and running, that we should have a sort of a demarcation in time where once it's established, then there's a user policy that we need to write at that point.
That's my concern. There is no schedule for when that video conference system is going to go into effect.
Yeah.
I'm worried about as soon as it going in, there being a bit of a free for all on it.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
No. I'm saying we don't do that. I'm saying before anyone uses that room, we establish a policy.
Yeah, just further to the second recommendation, so it's my understanding that we're going to continue month by month at the present rates and there'll be no rate increases for 2014, is that what I'm hearing?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. But should a new tenant, if a new tenant moves into the building, then we need to set some minimums.
There would need to be some discussions if a new tenant came along. I'd be leery about some sticking with those rates.
Okay, and we can deal with that at the time. Good.
All right, well, thank you for all that work. And next item is the Kaslo Aerodrome and Medevacs flights. For information. So you're not the only one there. Who clicks on the wrong thing?
I've just provided, given the amount of communications on this topic that were circulating before Christmas, I thought I'd put together some information for you. There are no recommendations there, it's just for your information. It certainly doesn't close the door on any of these possibilities. They will need to be fully costed in the future if council ever wanted to pursue something like this. Moreover, I'm just making a little side note that I think I've spent quite a bit of time since I got here on this file. on one item or another. And I'm a little concerned about going into the budget season with this file being as dominant as it has been. I'd really appreciate if we can, as long as council doesn't change its priorities significantly away from these areas. If they do, they do. Just focusing on implementation of the EBA consulting recommendations, resolution of the boundary expansion application, and continued dialogue with KPAC and seeing where that goes. Those are more than enough for us to be, as staff, to be getting along with at the moment. However, if the council wishes us to refocus and do more on this file, particularly in relation to the regional district's solid waste service, which would make sense, there might be some issues come up there. I understand that. However, this is still my first year in the job, and I'm concerned that I've spent quite a bit of time on this, and the Public Works Foreman is in the same spot. So, yes, we consider that an important part of our duties, but we're a fairly small staff.
Should I have the CAO to read his conclusion now? For the public?
Okay. There is a clear policy preference by the BC Ambulance Service not to have fixed wing medevacs at uncertified runways, but exceptions are possible based on the level of local improvements, weather and ground conditions, and pilot comfort in a given emergency. The costs involved in making Kaslo Aerodrome a year-round fixed wing medevac aerodrome would be substantial and require more funds than are currently budgeted for the aerodrome annually or held in reserve. An annual operation and maintenance budget would be required, which would dwarf expenditures and other core municipal services.
Councillor Lang?
Yeah, I would like us to revisit the EBA consulting recommendations again prior to finalizing our budget, because I think there is some stuff in there that we might want to address that are relatively minimal dollar requirements, but I think we need to go back over that and pick out the items that we think are doable for 2014 and try to address those. So I just would like to see that resurface on some future agenda.
He's got that in there.
So on one of our budget committee meetings, we'll
Yeah, we plan to have Mr. McLennan and KPAC at the next budget.
Just clarification, so the EBA report is now in public?
Not yet, no. I'm still to bring you a report at the next regular meeting.
Okay.
Before that gets.
Okay, that's what I thought. It was held in camera, correct?
Yeah.
Pending council development policy, was that?
Yeah, it would be inappropriate.
Yeah, no,
like council was, it's inappropriate to show what you have to tackle without having a response plan ready.
Yeah, no, I realize that. So do we have a response plan ready?
I'm putting that together for your next.
Oh, okay, all right, yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
All right, item number 4 under business is completion of priorities for 2014. Did we have everyone submit?
No.
Okay.
So I haven't received everyone's feedback yet on their latter 5, so I don't know if you can deal with that tonight or not. Hey, I got yours. Yeah, I got it. Yeah. Yeah, I haven't got everyone's latter 5, but I circulated the email last week. I can, again, if you can get everything that, if everyone can respond to me, I can put that together for you very quickly.
The email sent out again, so you can find it rather than having it buried deep in here.
That would be great.
Okay.
I don't know, I thought I'd responded to something, but that wasn't it.
You did, we did the top 5 before Christmas, but the latter 5 were still to be identified.
So if you can,
See, I didn't even have it on my to-do list.
so if you can email that letter again.
I think it was Friday that it, yes, it was Friday that it came out because we
Friday,
discussed it Thursday, just last Friday.
Well, I'm not, what day is
Councillor Holland, you had an item you wanted
Yeah.
to introduce.
So, there was a meeting this afternoon with Andy Shadrack, myself, and Brian Carruthers, and there's I have a draft copy of a bylaw that I'll give to Neil, and this will be coming up at the next board meeting. And what they're doing is they're creating service committees for around the regional district. There'll be the Crescent Valley Services Committee, there'll be the Central Services Committee, there'll be Kootenai Lake Services Committee, which we'll be a part of, Slocan Valley Services Committee, and the Castle Garden Area Services Committee, and the Upper Arrow Services Committee. These service committees are going to be probably for the smaller ones like this, it'll be a quarterly meeting. And it'll be a place where, number one, the primary focus will be to deal with shared services. In our case, it'll be economic development, Castle Area D. It'll be Jaws of Life Service, Castle Area D. It'll be emergency planning service, Castle and Area D. It'll be the library service, Castle and portion of Area D. It'll be community facilities service, Castle and Area D, which includes the regional facilities, recreation, park service, and now also will include the Castle Fire Service. So those services, some of them have, one of them has a commission and other ones have committees. What's going to happen now is activities and actions are recommendations that are going to go forward to the regional district board. Will go through the Kootenai Lake Services Committee, and actually we're going to call it the North Kootenai Lake Community Services Committee. Rather than the advisory groups or the commissions or wherever is operating these things reporting directly to the board, it'll come through the committee. And that means that there's a whole bunch of other things about this that are really great. Those minutes will get vetted at the committee level before they get to the board, so that they're, and recommendations to the board will come from the committee. There'll be better communication. It'll provide a venue. These meetings are going to be public meetings. They'll be advertised with regular meeting schedule. So it'll actually be a place for the public to interact with these services, because right now it's kind of an odd situation. The library is a great case in point. The library's developing a budget. They're going to come visit us. They go visit Andy, this kind of all over the place. So in that situation, that's a good example where what will happen now, rather than the library coming to us in Area D, they'll go to the Kootenai Lake Services Committee, and that's where they'll have their budget aired in that meeting. The other thing that the committee services, those service committees are going to do, is part of the mandate within the bylaw that's going to set this up is that the committee may include discussion of issues that are of importance to the participating areas, but which are not directly related to the services in which they participate. Things like boundary expansion, wildfire interface, the Kootenai Lake Stewardship Partnership, the Gommel Creek Water System, where we have a close interaction with the regional district. Those issues can also be discussed and brought to the Kootenai Lake Services Committee. So that would be one place where even the municipality, if you want to enter into discussions around boundary expansions, that would be the venue to go through that committee, and then that committee can make recommendations to the board where it's more of a shared service. Now, the municipality would still have direct access to the board for issues exclusively dealing from the municipality's basis, but anything that required the area and the municipalities kind of more, that would be the venue. So I think it's going to really clean things up really good. It's going to much better define things. Though right now there's no formal structure that links your municipal director and your area director around how they go about their business. Basically, it's all done ad hoc basis. You know, you go bump into somebody in a meeting, whatever. This is going to formalize that whole process. There'll be defined sit-down meetings where these things, and the minutes. There'll be a recording secretary, and right now the rest I'm going to say is to be negotiated. But one of the ideas is that the municipality would be responsible for recording half those meetings quarterly, so it would be 2 meetings that the municipality would record on, 2 meetings of the regional district record on, when we would have official bona fide minutes that would become part of the public record. So I think it's a really good move. So that's going to come up next time. I just want to let you guys know about that. For Bill, there's a copy of the bylaw, just if you want to scan it, and then I'll give you, I can leave this too with you, Neil. It's just got my notes on it, but anyway, at least you can get a handle on where it's going. Probably they're going to maybe ask if the CAO, the municipal CAO chair, or be the recording secretary for 2 of them. All of these meetings are advertised. All councilors, all directors can attend those meetings and participate as non-voting members, but you'd be included in the discussions. It's an excellent move. I mean, I don't want to go, I could go on a little bit more, but I think you get the drift. It's going to really tidy things up. It's, you know, when we sit down, we go through this and go, why did we do this 20 years ago?
Correct.
Yeah, okay, thanks.
Thank you. Councillor Lang?
Yeah, I just wanted to make a comment about the fire hall. I think everybody was copied on Neil received an invitation to a meeting that was to take place today and has subsequently been moved to tomorrow. And Neil said that he couldn't attend, would anybody else like to attend? And I replied that I would attend. That was, did all members of the council get that?
No, I just sent that to the 2 liaisons, that was yourself and Councillor Hall.
Okay, all right. So that's where we stand at this point in time. It is my intention to attend that meeting in Neil's stead. I don't know what kind of reception I'll get. They may put the bum's rush on me for all I know. They currently haven't responded to the letter that we sent.
There's something coming.
There is something coming. So, and that's all I can tell you at this point in time.
Is there an agenda for the meeting?
Not that I'm aware of.
Yes,
Yeah.
there is. I can get that. I thought I had sent it. It's the architect writes it. It doesn't look like isn't it? You might not think it's an agenda. It's
very
very right there.
Okay. Are you planning on attending, Council?
No, I can't.
Mayor Lay?
I'm just wondering if, there would be an update on how much we've spent. You don't know.
I have no idea.
It's tracking where the money's going, and I mean, the first report was pretty good in terms of local people are working. That's good. But it's also, I mean,
I'll just send the thing out to all council.
Okay.
yeah, in the issues that, there was a sense that there could be significant savings made. And I'm hoping that that's on the agenda in terms of where can we save money in light of, maybe we're spending more money because the weather hasn't been favorable for construction. I don't know.
That's not a factor.
Yeah, I think the weather's been ideal, to tell you the honest truth. But whatever, I don't think that's really the issue.
It's a contract, it's not,
Yeah.
that's their problem, it's not our problem.
Anyway, that's all I have to say.
Right, thank you. Anything else from councillors before we go into the last 15 minutes? All right. So the last 15 minutes of Committee of the Whole are set aside for public questions. So did you have any questions?
Yes.
All right.
I want to stay within protocol, so I don't exactly know what I'm doing here. I only have one question for each of you. It's not pertaining to the airport. In turn, starting with, maybe Rob would be a good place to start. What is your greatest fear for the business community for Castle in the next 24 months?
That's a hard question to answer right off the top of my head, I mean, I think we all recognize, and certainly I do, that the business community is struggling. You know, I don't think there's any doubt about that. It's a boom and bust cycle. It's happening. It's been going on now for the better part of 8 or 10 years. Everybody's rolling in the dough in summertime and then barely able to keep their doors open in the winter. How do we solve that problem and get back to the good old days? Because I've been here 30 years and I can remember when you couldn't get a seat in the bar on Friday night after work. I don't know if there's a simple answer to that question.
Yeah, my question, so I can simplify it for all of you, is your fear. What is the fear for the business community in the next 24 months that you can see?
Somebody else want to run with that?
Well, I think, you know, as a person living in Kaslo, my fear is that businesses are forced to close and we continue to lose services. You know, as a council member, you know, I guess the same thing, that, you know, businesses aren't either able to open all year round or, again, have to shut their doors. And I agree with Rob that, you know, you go with these up and down cycles. And, you know, the problem from council's perspective is that we still have things that we need to maintain and priorities that we still have to address, while recognizing that the business community is suffering, and we're trying to do whatever we can to keep them solvent but still keep the village going. So, yeah.
What is your fear?
Well, my fear would be that businesses have to close.
Ms. Yoder?
Well, I think I would share the same fear, is that businesses would close. You know, in some areas there are probably more businesses of some types than the community could support, even if we had a more vibrant economy. You know, those dollars are just spread over a wider number of businesses. And, you know, part of it is we don't have, you know, tourism does tend to carry us from May to the end of September, but we've got to find some way to attract another type of business that keeps long-term employment. Tourism does work, like I said, it puts an infusion of cash into business in the summer, but it doesn't support the business in the shoulder season. So that's a problem that needs to be solved, and I've not seen anybody come forward, you know, never heard of a proposal to, you know, a solid proposal. There's always talk about, you know, value added for wood products, and different kinds of light manufacture have been bandied about, but nothing solid has, to my knowledge, has been proposed. So it's getting the long-term, stable, good jobs, good paying jobs that will in turn support our community during the lean months. So, you know, there's probably there could be some closures, or, you know, maybe, hopefully not permanent, but seasonal closures more than we've seen already, just so that people don't have to keep putting money into something that, you know, like I said, you're spreading it very thin, the dollars that we have in the wintertime.
What would be your fear for the next 24 months?
Well, like I said, the closure of businesses, outright closure,
Okay.
not just seasonal closure, but outright closure. And people, you know, finding that they have to move away with their business.
Mr. Hall?
I was hoping I heard the mayor say something. So the exact question is, the greatest fear for the business in the next
The next 24 months for the business community of Kaslo.
high interest rates, I guess.
That's an interesting answer.
That would dramatically affect our ability to capitalize. Anybody that's been, you know, investing in a business up till now would be doing that with really ridiculously low interest rates, and I think that would probably be a crushing blow for us.
Mr. Mayor?
My fear is that the assets and the opportunities will not be capitalized on, and as a result, we will undergo a significant reduction of economic activity that will pose serious problems to bringing forth the many assets that the community has. It'll be too late. That money will go elsewhere. It will not come to this community. And we will then find ourselves probably looking at not being a municipality anymore, but becoming part of the regional district, because we simply will not be able to afford to provide the services to the citizens who remain here.
Thank you for your answers. I appreciate that.
Thank you for attending the meeting. So, and being no further business, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Move.
Motion by Mayor Lane. All those in favor? Motion's carried.